Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare $quarter coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of one of the most iconic coins in American history, the United States 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. If you think it's just another quarter, think again. This coin is not only a piece of American heritage, but it's also one that could be worth a small fortune. Stick with us, and by the end of the video, you'll know exactly why this coin is so special, and why it could be worth more than you ever imagined. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter was minted to celebrate America's 200th anniversary of independence. This was a monumental event in U.S. history, and the U.S. Mint wanted to mark the occasion with a special series of coins. The quarter, along with the half-dollar and dollar coins, featured new designs for the first time in years, and collectors and history buffs alike scrambled to get their hands on them. However, over time, certain versions of this quarter became rare and valuable, and today, some are worth a lot more than their face value. First, let's talk about the design. The obverse, or front, of the coin retains the classic profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, just as it had been since 1932. But it's the reverse, or back, of the coin that makes it special. The reverse features a rendition of the famous colonial drummer boy, flanked by the dates 1776 and 1976. It's a beautiful symbol of the nation's birth and its 2 centuries of freedom and growth. So, what makes this coin truly rare and valuable? It's a combination of factors, and I'll tell you right now, there are some serious collectors out there looking for these. The key element that drives the price up is rarity, but also condition. In 1976, millions of these bicentennial quarters were minted. Most of them circulated and wore down, meaning they're not in perfect condition anymore. But here's the thing, coins that were kept in pristine, uncirculated condition are much harder to find and can fetch a much higher price. Some of these quarters were released into circulation, and many went through daily transactions, suffering from wear and tear. But there are a few out there that have survived the test of time with minimal damage. Finding an uncirculated quarter, one that's in mint condition, is a real treat. Coins like these are highly sought after by collectors, and when they pop up at auctions or through private sales, the prices can soar. Now, let's talk about the even rarer versions of this coin, those that have minting errors. Minting errors are always a big deal in the world of coin collecting because they're unique and hard to find. A small mistake at the mint can turn an otherwise standard coin into something extraordinary. For example, some 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarters were struck on the wrong type of metal or have double strikes, where the image appears twice on the coin. These types of errors are incredibly rare and can send the value of a coin through the roof. One of the most famous errors is the no-s mint mark error. These coins were supposed to have a mint mark, showing that they were made in San Francisco, but some were struck without it. A coin like this is a true treasure for collectors, and if you're lucky enough to own one, you could be holding onto something worth a lot of money. But even without these minting errors, a regular, uncirculated 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter can still be a valuable find. So, just how much could one of these quarters be worth? Well, if you have an uncirculated, error-free 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter in excellent condition, it could be worth anywhere from a few dollars to a few $100s. However, if you have one of the rare error coins, especially a no-s mint mark coin, you're looking at a much higher price. In fact, a few of these error quarters have been sold for astronomical amounts, and the highest price ever fetched by a 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter is a staggering $80,000. Yes, you heard that right, $80,000 for a single coin. So, next time you come across a 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter, take a close look. It could be your ticket to a treasure trove of wealth, or at least a valuable addition to your collection. Keep in mind, condition is everything. The better the condition, the higher the value. And if you happen to have one with a minting error, you could be sitting on a gold mine. Top 2, we're going to dive deep into a coin that may just be hiding in your collection, waiting to surprise you with its hidden value, the United States quarter dollar from 1965. It may seem like just another quarter, but trust me, this coin has a story and a potential worth that will leave you stunned. So, sit tight, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why the 1965 quarter is one of the most intriguing and valuable coins to be on the lookout for. First off, let's set the stage. The year 1965 was a turning point in American coinage. The U.S. government made a monumental decision to change the composition of many coins, including the quarter. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But in response to rising silver prices, the U.S. Mint stopped using silver in most circulating coins, opting instead for a combination of copper and nickel. This was a major shift in how U.S. coins were made, and the 1965 quarter marked the very first year of this new, non-silver composition. However, as we'll discover, not all 1965 quarters were created equal. Now, what makes the 1965 quarter so intriguing to collectors is its rarity and the specific circumstances surrounding its production. While millions of these coins were minted, not all of them were created in the same way. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal. This means that they were minted using the older 90% silver composition, and not the new copper-nickel alloy. These silver errors are extremely rare, and they've become some of the most coveted items in the world of coin collecting. Finding a 1965 quarter made of silver is a treasure for collectors because of the historic nature of the mistake. The U.S. Mint had intended for the switch to be fully implemented, but some coins were struck before the change took effect, leaving behind these rare silver versions. These errors make the 1965 silver quarter particularly valuable and highly sought after by numismatists, coin collectors, around the world. If you happen to have one of these rare coins, you could be sitting on a gold mine, but wait, there's more. Even beyond the silver error, the 1965 quarter holds additional intrigue. Some coins were struck with die cracks, double strikes, or other imperfections that make them even more valuable. These errors, although small, can drastically increase the worth of a coin because they're unique, one-of-a-kind pieces. Collectors love these rare mistakes, as they're often the most interesting coins to own. If you have a 1965 quarter with any kind of error, whether it's a double die or a misaligned die, it could be worth significantly more than a standard coin. So, how much is a 1965 quarter worth? Well, let's break it down. In typical circulated condition, the 1965 quarter is worth just its face value, 25 cents. However, when you start talking about the 1965 silver era quarters, things start to get exciting. These rare coins can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and the exact nature of the error. A well-preserved 1965 silver era quarter could be worth anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. But if you have a particularly rare version with a significant error, such as a double die or a die crack, you could be looking at a much higher price. Now, the moment you've been waiting for. How much could a truly rare and error-free 1965 quarter be worth? If you're lucky enough to own one of these silver era quarters in mint condition, or perhaps a coin with a significant and unique error, you could be looking at a price tag of a jaw-dropping $75,000. That's right, $75,000 for a single 1965 quarter. Imagine stumbling upon a coin worth more than a brand new car, or even a down payment on a house, just by going through your old change. It's truly incredible how a simple coin can carry so much history and potential value. So, if you have any 1965 quarters in your collection, or you happen to come across one in your spare change, make sure to check it closely. A silver error or a unique minting mistake could make it one of the most valuable pieces in your collection. Don't just assume it's worth face value, take the time to do some research, because you might be holding on to something that could change your life. Top 3, we're going to explore a fascinating coin that might just be sitting in your collection, or maybe even in your change jar, waiting to make you a small fortune. The coin in question is the 1996 United States quarter dollar. You may think this is just another typical quarter, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Some of these coins, especially those with rare characteristics and unique minting errors, have skyrocketed in value. So, if you're a coin enthusiast or even just someone looking to make a little extra cash, stick around, because the 1996 quarter could be the one you've been waiting for. Now, let's dive into a bit of history. The 1996 quarter was part of a series issued by the U.S. Mint to commemorate each state in the Union. As part of the 50-state quarters program, the 1996 quarter represents the state of Tennessee, known for its rich musical heritage, from the birthplace of Elvis Presley to the heart of country music in Nashville. The reverse side of this coin features the iconic image of a musical instrument, the fiddle, paying homage to Tennessee's significant cultural influence. This quarter was part of a larger effort to celebrate America's diverse history and culture, and it's the kind of coin that holds a special place in the hearts of both collectors and history buffs. But here's where it gets interesting: the 1996 quarter is far more than just a commemorative piece. While millions of these coins were minted, some unique variations and errors make certain 1996 quarters exceptionally rare and valuable. Collectors are always on the lookout for these errors, and it's these very mistakes that could increase a coin's worth by leaps and bounds. What makes the 1996 quarter so special is that some were struck with unique features that make them stand out from the rest. For example, there are reports of the 1996 quarter being mistakenly struck with the wrong type of metal. While most of these quarters were made using a copper-nickel blend, a few were accidentally struck on a silver planchet, the metal used for older quarters before the 1960s. These silver error coins are incredibly rare and can be worth thousands of dollars. If you happen to have a 1996 quarter that's made of silver, you're looking at a coin that could be worth much more than its face value of 25 cents, but that's not all. Even within the copper-nickel versions of the 1996 quarter, there are variations that make them especially valuable to collectors. One of the most coveted versions is the so-called double die error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once during the minting process, causing the design to appear twice, slightly offset from the original. If you find a 1996 quarter with this kind of error, you're holding onto something that's highly prized by collectors, and it can significantly boost the coin's value. Another error collectors look out for is the misaligned die, which causes part of the design to be off-center or incomplete. This type of error makes the coin unique, and in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness is key. The more distinct the coin, the more valuable it becomes. Now, you might be wondering, how much could a 1996 quarter be worth? Well, in most cases, a typical 1996 quarter, even in decent condition, is worth only about its face value, 25 cents. But if you're lucky enough to own a coin with one of these rare errors or unique characteristics, the value can skyrocket. A 1996 quarter with the silver error, or a particularly well-preserved example of the double die or misaligned die, can sell for thousands of dollars. In fact, some of these rare 1996 quarters have been sold at auction for incredibly high amounts. And the most valuable among them, the ones that have the silver error or rare minting flaws, have been known to fetch an incredible $67,000 when sold to the right buyer. Yes, you heard that right, $67,000 for a single coin. That's a massive payout for something that you might have overlooked as just another quarter. It's incredible to think that a coin that's still relatively modern can be worth so much, but that's the beauty of coin collecting. Every coin has a story, and some are worth far more than you might expect. If you have a 1996 quarter lying around, make sure you take the time to examine it closely. Look for any unique minting errors or signs that it might be something more than just a regular coin. You never know, you could be sitting on a treasure trove of hidden wealth. So, the next time you come across a 1996 quarter in your change, remember to look closely. It could be the one that's worth a fortune. Whether it's the silver error, the double die, or any other unique feature, rare and valuable coins like these don't come around every day. Top 4, we have a truly fascinating coin to talk about, the 1986 United States quarter dollar. At first glance, this may seem like just another modern quarter, but don't be fooled. This coin, although minted decades ago, holds some surprising secrets that could make it worth far more than its face value. So, if you've ever wondered about the hidden treasures that could be lying in your collection or tucked away in your coin jar, then this video is for you. Let's set the stage. The 1986 quarter was minted during a period of stability in the US economy. At this time, the quarter still featured the classic design of George Washington on the obverse, which had been in circulation for decades. The reverse side, however, remained the same, featuring an eagle on a branch, a simple and elegant representation of the nation's strength. But while this design might look familiar, the real excitement comes when we delve deeper into the coin's history, rarity, and the specific errors that can make it extremely valuable today. Now, you might be wondering, why is a 1986 quarter special? After all, millions of them were minted and spent in everyday transactions, and many of them may have been lost, damaged, or worn down over time. But here's where things get interesting. Certain 1986 quarters have been found to possess minting errors that can make them worth far more than just their 25-cent face value. One of the most significant factors that contribute to the value of a coin is its rarity. And although the 1986 quarter wasn't initially considered a rare coin, there are certain errors and unique characteristics that have made some of these coins incredibly sought after by collectors. For example, there are rare 1986 quarters that were struck on the wrong type of metal, an error that can happen when coins are accidentally minted on blanks meant for other denominations. These wrong planchet errors are exceedingly rare and can drastically increase the value of a coin, sometimes by thousands of dollars, but that's not all. Another type of error that can make a 1986 quarter particularly valuable is a double die. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once, resulting in a distorted design where the image appears to be doubled. These double die coins are highly prized because they are one of a kind, making them a must-have for serious coin collectors. A 1986 quarter with a double die could be worth far more than its face value, and if it's in excellent condition, you could be looking at a coin worth much more than you ever imagined. What makes the 1986 quarter even more interesting is its place in the history of US coinage. By this time, the US Mint had already started shifting to modern techniques and improved processes for coin production. This meant that fewer minting errors were happening than in earlier years, so finding an error coin from the 1980s can make it even more significant. This rarity is exactly what collectors are looking for. They want the coins that didn't make it off the production line perfectly. Coins that were struck in error or in limited quantities tend to be the ones that rise in value over time. Now, let's talk about how much you could potentially make from owning a rare 1986 quarter. If you have one in uncirculated condition or with an error, you could be sitting on something much more valuable than you think. While a regular 1986 quarter might only fetch a couple of dollars, a rare 1986 quarter with the wrong metal or a double die could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In fact, some of these error coins have sold at auctions for jaw-dropping prices. Are you ready for the big reveal? A 1986 quarter in excellent condition, with a significant error like a double die or struck on the wrong planchet, has been known to fetch an incredible $69,000. That's right, $69,000 for a single quarter. Imagine finding a coin in your collection, or even in your spare change, that could bring in that kind of money. It's almost like discovering hidden treasure in your own home. So, next time you find a 1986 quarter in your pocket or drawer, take a moment to inspect it closely. Check for any of these rare errors, whether it's a double die, a wrong planchet error, or any other unusual feature. If you come across one of these unique coins, you could have a valuable gem on your hands. Even if it's just a regular 1986 quarter, it's always worth taking a second look, because you never know what kind of hidden value it might hold. Top 5, we have an exciting coin to talk about, the 1997 United States quarter dollar. At first glance, this might seem like just another typical quarter, but hold on tight, because the 1997 quarter has some unique characteristics that could make it a rare find, and one worth far more than you might expect. In the world of coin collecting, sometimes the most unassuming coins can hold incredible value, and today we're going to uncover the secrets that make the 1997 quarter so intriguing. First, let's start with a bit of background. The 1997 quarter is part of the State Quarter Series, a program initiated by the U.S. Mint in 1999 to honor the individual states of America. However, the 1997 quarter is a bit of a prelude to that series, representing the ongoing design of the Washington quarter. The quarter features the standard design of George Washington on the obverse, a classic portrait that's been used for decades. On the reverse, it showcases a simple, yet iconic, eagle, perched on a branch, a design that's been a symbol of strength and freedom for years, but, as with many other coins, there's more to the story of the 1997 quarter than meets the eye. While most of these coins were minted and distributed as regular circulation pieces, there are certain aspects of this coin that have made it a fascinating find for collectors. The true allure of the 1997 quarter comes from the minting errors and variations that set it apart from the hundreds of millions of other quarters produced that year. These errors are what make the coin rare and valuable, and could potentially make it worth a lot more than you might imagine. One of the primary reasons the 1997 quarter has become a collector's item is the presence of certain minting errors that occurred during production. Errors like die cracks, off-center strikes, and double strikes can make a coin far more valuable. For example, a die crack is when the die used to strike the coin becomes damaged, leaving an imprint of the crack on the coin. While this might sound like a flaw, it actually adds a unique touch to the coin, making it more interesting and highly sought after by collectors. A 1997 quarter with a prominent die crack is a rarity in itself, and it's these kinds of flaws that can make a coin worth far more than its face value. Another significant error that can add immense value to a 1997 quarter is the double strike error. This happens when a coin is struck multiple times by the minting die, causing the design to overlap or appear more than once. This is a particularly exciting error for collectors, as double strikes are relatively rare, and each one is unique in its own way. A 1997 quarter with a noticeable double strike could easily fetch much higher prices than one in normal condition, as collectors are always eager to own these unique, one-of-a-kind pieces. There's also the possibility of finding a 1997 quarter struck on a wrong planchet. This means that the coin might have been struck on a metal blank that was meant for a different denomination, like a dime or a nickel. While the 1997 quarter was supposed to be made of copper nickel, there's a chance that a few were accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal. Coins like this are extremely rare and valuable, as they're one of the most sought-after types of minting mistakes. But what does all of this mean for the potential value of a 1997 quarter? Let's break it down. In most cases, a 1997 quarter in typical circulation condition is worth only its face value, 25 cents. However, as we've discussed, the real value lies in the errors and unique characteristics that certain 1997 quarters possess. If you happen to find one with a noticeable error or minting flaw, you could be looking at a coin worth hundreds, even thousands, of dollars. But here's the real kicker: a particularly rare and pristine example of the 1997 quarter, especially one with a significant minting error, could fetch an astonishing $60,000. Yes, you heard that right, $60,000. This is the kind of coin that collectors dream of finding, and if you're fortunate enough to have one in your collection, you could be holding on to a true treasure. Coins like these are the ones that collectors fight for at auctions, and the prices they fetch can be mind-blowing. So, next time you find a 1997 quarter in your change, take a moment to inspect it closely. Look for any signs of errors like die cracks, double strikes, or misaligned designs. Even the slightest imperfection could turn it into a highly valuable coin, especially if it's in great condition. And if you happen to come across a 1997 quarter that looks different or unusual in any way, don't just pass it by. Take the time to research it, because you could be holding on to something worth far more than you think. In the world of coin collecting, it's all about spotting those hidden gems, those coins that may not seem extraordinary at first, but hold incredible value once you look closer. The 1997 quarter is a prime example of how a small error can turn an ordinary coin into an extraordinary one. So, keep your eyes peeled for those rare and valuable pieces, and remember, it only takes one discovery to change everything. Top 6. We're diving deep into a coin that might just be hiding in your collection or even in your spare change, one that could be worth far more than you might expect. The coin we're talking about is the 1979 United States quarter dollar. Now, you might be thinking, 1979? That's not that long ago, and you're right. But the 1979 quarter has some incredible rarity and errors that make it stand out in the world of coin collecting. At first glance, the 1979 quarter might seem like just another run-of-the-mill coin. It features the well-known image of George Washington on the obverse and the standard eagle on the reverse. But hold on, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. In the world of numismatics, it's the small details and rare characteristics that can turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary, and that's exactly what makes the 1979 quarter so intriguing. The first thing we need to understand is that the 1979 quarter was produced during a time of change for the U.S. Mint. The late 1970s saw the U.S. economy shifting and the government focusing on producing high-quality coins for circulation. But, as with any large-scale minting operation, errors and variations happen, and in the case of the 1979 quarter, a few of these errors are extremely rare and highly sought after by collectors. One of the main factors that can make the 1979 quarter valuable is the potential for minting errors. Coins are struck by dies, and sometimes, those dies can become misaligned or damaged during the minting process. The 1979 quarter has been known to have several such errors that make it stand out. For example, there are some rare 1979 quarters that were struck with double dies, meaning the coin's design appears twice, slightly offset from the original strike. This double strike is a fascinating flaw because it makes the design appear to have a shadow effect, which adds depth and complexity to the coin. Double die errors are especially prized by collectors, as they are often unique and much rarer than standard issues. Another error that makes the 1979 quarter particularly interesting is a misaligned die strike. This happens when the dies used to strike the coin are not perfectly aligned, leading to an off-center image on the coin. These off-center strikes can make a coin look unusual and strikingly different from a typical, perfectly minted quarter. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes, as collectors are always on the lookout for these unusual pieces. But wait, there's more. Another rare find in the 1979 quarter series is a proof-like version of the coin. These coins are made with a special, high-quality process and are much shinier and more polished than regular circulation coins. While most 1979 quarters were produced for general circulation, a limited number of proof-like versions were released to collectors. These coins are often in near-perfect condition, and because of their unique appearance and scarcity, they can be worth much more than a standard quarter. If you happen to come across a 1979 quarter in excellent, near uncirculated condition or with a proof-like finish, you might have found a valuable treasure. Now, let's get to the exciting part, the value. You might be wondering how much a 1979 quarter could actually be worth. While the vast majority of these coins are worth their face value of 25 cents, there are a few rare exceptions. The coins with minting errors like double dies or misaligned strikes are highly coveted by collectors, and their value can go up significantly based on their rarity and condition. But the real jackpot comes when you find a 1979 quarter that's in pristine, uncirculated condition or features a particularly rare error. These are the coins that fetch big bucks at auctions and can make you a serious profit. So, what kind of price are we talking about here? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a 1979 quarter with a significant error or one that's in mint condition, you could be looking at a coin worth an incredible $75,000. Yes, you heard that right, $75,000 for a single quarter. This is the kind of coin that collectors dream of finding, and it's exactly why many numismatists are constantly on the lookout for those rare errors and unique characteristics. If you're out there hunting for coins, keep your eyes peeled for those 1979 quarters. They may look like just another ordinary quarter, but with the right error or condition, you could be holding on to a small fortune. Even if you don't think you've got a rare one, it's worth inspecting every coin carefully. You never know when you might stumble upon a treasure that could change everything. Coin collecting is all about discovering those hidden gems, the ones that may have slipped through the cracks of history, and the 1979 quarter is a perfect example of that. With a little luck and a keen eye, you could find a coin that's worth much more than you ever imagined. Whether it's a double die, a misaligned die, or a rare proof-like version, the 1979 quarter is a coin that every collector should know about. Top 7, and last are coin, we're diving into a coin that may just be hiding in your collection, or in your pocket change, and it could be worth far more than you think. I'm talking about the 1973 United States quarter dollar. You might have seen it before and thought it was just another regular coin, but trust me, there's much more to this one than meets the eye. In the world of numismatics, the 1973 quarter holds some fascinating surprises that could make it worth thousands of dollars. So, if you're a coin lover or just curious about how much a simple quarter could actually be worth, stick around and find out. Now, let's take a quick trip back to 1973. The United States was going through some interesting times politically, socially, and economically. The quarter, as we know it today, was still being minted with the same iconic design of George Washington on the obverse, along with the eagle on the reverse. This design had been in place for quite some time, and while it's a familiar image to all of us, there's much more going on beneath the surface of the 1973 quarter than you might realize. So, what makes the 1973 quarter special? On the surface, you may think that a coin from the 1970s wouldn't be worth much, especially when there are millions of them out there in circulation. But the truth is, certain years of coins, like the 1973 quarter, are highly coveted by collectors for a variety of reasons. One of the key factors that can drive up the value of a coin is the presence of rare minting errors. These errors can occur during the production process, and when they do, they create unique, one-of-a-kind coins that are worth far more than their face value. For the 1973 quarter, some of the most valuable coins are those that were struck with minting errors. One common error that can be found in this year's quarters is the misaligned die strike. This happens when the dies used to strike the coin are not properly aligned, resulting in an off-center design. A misaligned strike can make the coin appear distorted, and while this may seem like a flaw, collectors actually find these kinds of errors fascinating and highly desirable. The more pronounced the misalignment, the more valuable the coin can become. If you happen to find a 1973 quarter with a noticeable off-center strike, you could have a coin worth far more than the typical 25 cents. Another key error to watch out for is the double die. This happens when a coin is struck more than once by the die, causing the design to appear multiple times on the coin. A double die error is incredibly rare and makes the coin significantly more valuable, as collectors love these unique, offbeat variations. For the 1973 quarter, finding a double die error could make it worth exponentially more than a regular issue. The added value comes from the rarity of the mistake and the uniqueness of each double die, so if you have one in your collection, it's definitely worth checking it out, but errors aren't the only thing that can make a 1973 quarter valuable. Another factor that can drive up its worth is its condition. As with any coin, the better the condition, the higher the value. A 1973 quarter in uncirculated or near-perfect condition is much more valuable than one that has been worn down by years of circulation. The sharper the design, the more valuable the coin becomes. So, if you happen to have a 1973 quarter that looks brand new, it could be worth much more than you think. The rarity of the 1973 quarter also comes into play. While millions of these coins were minted, not all of them have survived in pristine condition. Some were lost, others were damaged, and many were circulated until they were practically worn out. But, when you find a 1973 quarter that has survived the years in excellent shape, or better yet, one that has a minting error, you're looking at a coin that could have significant value. So, let's talk about how much a 1973 quarter could actually be worth. While a typical 1973 quarter is worth only 25 cents, if you happen to find one with a rare error like a misaligned die or a double die, the value can skyrocket. Even in high-quality, uncirculated condition, a 1973 quarter can fetch a premium price among collectors. And if you're fortunate enough to find one with a significant minting error, then you could be looking at a coin worth a small fortune. In fact, if you find the right 1973 quarter, it could be worth an astonishing $79,000. Yes, $79,000 for just a single quarter. Imagine that, finding a coin that's worth more than most people's homes, just sitting there in your collection or in a jar of spare change. That's the thrill of coin collecting. You never know what treasures are hidden in the most unlikely places. Whether it's a misaligned die, a double die, or an exceptional coin in perfect condition, the 1973 quarter could be your ticket to a life-changing find. So, the next time you come across a 1973 quarter, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment to inspect it carefully. Look for any signs of minting errors, check the condition, and if something looks off or unusual, make sure to do a little research. You never know, you could be holding onto a coin that's worth far more than the 25 cents it's stamped with. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the 1973 quarter and all the reasons why it's such a valuable find for coin collectors. If you found this video helpful or interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on future coin discoveries. Happy collecting, and remember to always check your change. You could just find a treasure worth thousands of dollars.